locpodcasts.com.
AirWreckRadio.
You can get a lot farther in this world with a kind word and a gun than you can with just a kind word. Al Capone said that.
It's a goddamn joke. It's quid pro quo de facto. This democracy's a hoax. Stacey says, man, it's time to act. Keep your wallet where your heart is. We can take the power back. So go get a bowl, a spoon, and some cereal, and sit your ass down. It's time for AirWreck Radio. It is the 21st day of July in the year 2014. I am Corey.
And I am just recognizing that today's date is all multiples of sevens.
Yeah, surely is. Good
like
point.
1, 3, 2.
Yeah.
It's a conspiracy.
If it were the other way around.
And I'm Stacey.
All right. And this is episode what I believe to be 63
Also,
of AirWreck Radio.
a derivative of 7, divisible by 7. Yeah, 9 times 7, 63.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Conspiracies abound, folks.
I think I'm done. That's the end of this show. Too many
Already?
many
Jeez.
strange coinkydinks going on all in one place. It can only be AirWreck Radio.
Oh, terrific.
Terrific. See, I got a new one.
Fabulous.
I
We're
love it.
Off to a strong start here.
Woo!
All right.
All right. Well, please, before we get started, I like to make sure that we get the Twitter plugs out. Twitter,
Yes.
very important, the Twittering nowadays.
Super important that before you know anything about why you should follow us, you know where to follow us.
There's plenty of people that are listening who don't follow yet, and those are
I
the people
know.
we
You
need to get.
bastards. Follow us. I am AWR Stace Ghost. Corey is C-Pain Run, and AirWreck Radio is, of course, AirWreck Radio. Get on
right.
Twitter right now, you bastards. I know you're using a computer to listen to this. I know if you're not using a computer, you're using a smartphone.
What's the difference? The size?
Size.
Okay.
Get on Twitter. Follow us. We like followers. Go to
Yeah.
Facebook. Like us. Whatever happens on Facebook anymore. Who cares? You know what? Facebook is where all the good stuff is. Twitter's where all the better stuff is. Follow us on Twitter.
I like the way you put that. That's
You like
going
that?
on the new business cards.
All right.
Sounds good. This is going to be AirWreck Radio, the Leftovers edition, and we're going to stick with the new breakless format. Give that a shot for a little while, see how that works out. It worked out pretty good last week.
Yeah, I thought it went pretty well.
All right. And so what we're going to do is the Leftovers format. What that basically means is that we gather a lot of news, and a lot of it we don't get to.
I have an assload of sticky notes.
Yeah,
basically the things
because
that
you're
I.
the only guy who collects his notes and thoughts on sticky notes.
Well, because it's very convenient for me. You know, I always have my computer nearby, but I listen to a lot of books these days, and I read news, and whenever I find something interesting, I write it down with a sticky note on my computer. And basically what that adds up to is that my desktop is a fucking catastrophe right now, but I don't want to delete these notes because we haven't gotten to them yet. So,
and some of them might be just juicy little tidbits of information.
So a little bit later on, we will get to sticky notes. But before we did that, I wanted to talk about saving money by switching your car insurance.
Oh, God. No.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing it.
So I called car insurance company X.
Is that the one that you in 15 minutes you can save money on your car insurance?
No, that's who I was with.
Okay.
who was raping and pillaging me.
Oh, and now we're calling competition.
When I first went to the 15 minutes or less company with the lizard, they saved me a buttload of money. Like, it cut my insurance in half when I first went to that company.
Those are called introductory rates.
But then we had the accident, which was not our fault. A kid backed out in front of us and forced us into oncoming traffic. I mean, it was completely, there was no, we didn't get ticketed. It was his insurance company ended up paying us a bunch of money.
It was a shit happens accident.
It was clearly not our fault, but it still it caused our car insurance to go double, at least double. And it pissed me off. So I tried to reshop then, and everybody was like, nah, right after an accident, you're going to pay more.
Yeah.
Well, one of the books that I read recently was All You're Worth by Elizabeth Warren. And one of the things that she said to do, this was like a guide for how to like put yourself into a financially stable situation. One of the things that she said to do was to reshop your car insurance every 6 months. So I was like, you know what? I already knew that, but I hadn't done it in a while. So I did, and I called car insurance company X, and I said, I'm with Geico, and I'm looking to switch.
Oh, we were doing so well with that.
I was. Oh, whatever. I was with Lizard Insurance Company, 15 minutes or less, guys.
Quick at it.
Yeah. And the lady that answered the phone was like, oh, my goodness, what did they do to you? And I was like, well, here's the thing. I think they're gouging me, and I think I can save some money, but I'm going to get some quotes. She said, oh, I don't think Flo's going to like being used as a bargaining chip. And I said, well, I don't really care what Flo thinks about anything ever. And she I think I came off a little abrasive about it because she was like, oh, I was just joking. I was like, no. I was just joking too. I was, we were both kidding about how we felt about this imaginary car
character that is Flo,
insurance character.
Which is a different company than we were talking about first.
Yes.
So Flo is company X?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they ended up saving me over 50%. My car insurance and motorcycle,
went back to what it was before when you were on Geico before the accident.
2 cars.
I just did it. The Lizard before the accident.
Oh, you did it, yeah. 2 cars, 1 with collision, and 1 motorcycle, also with comprehensive. They cut it in half. So I was like, all right, you're offering me a pretty good rate. I got to tell you, I'm probably going to be calling you back, but I'm not taking the rate right now.
Oh, thank you.
I have to call.
Who buys a car from me?
I have to call the company that I'm with right now and see if they're going to come down. Well, lo and behold, Lizard Insurance Company was willing to come down. They came down to 20% more than what brand X offered me, and I was like, that's 20%, or no, 40%. Tough. It was 40% more.
No longer tough.
I was
thanks for coming down, guys, but I'm out.
So I told the lady that answered that I was talking to with I'm done with pretenses with Geico.
God damn it!
It was getting too complicated for me. I told the lady that answered the phone with Geico.
We're gonna get
I
sued
said,
now.
Progressive offered me this terrific rate, and I told her what the rate was, and she was like, well, I heard some stuff about that company. And I was like,
also something to consider.
You heard some stuff about that company? You heard some stuff? I heard some stuff. I'm pissing into the wind. We're talking about car insurance here. First off, I'm well familiar. I worked in a body shop for years. I mean, I'm well familiar with the different insurance companies. Progressive is a great insurance company.
I would like to point out that changes by the minute.
Sure does.
It changes by the minute.
But I'm not going to hear some phone operating person tell me that they heard some stuff.
Well,
you heard some stuff. Can you be specific?
It might be pre-programmed response. It might be sales shtick. But
that's not a very good. But I'm like, even if it was sales shtick, that's not a very good. Like, I heard some stuff.
She probably went about it the wrong way.
She definitely went about it the wrong way.
But I certainly, in my line of cars or my line of business, I'm in cars. When I sell them,
yeah,
I sell cars.
We know.
Yeah, the dealership directly across the street to the right a little bit of me has had some serious recall issues. And I totally heard some stuff about the company across the street.
Progressive hasn't had any recalls. Like, you heard some stuff. I was like, did what you hear make your commodity worth 40% more. And she was like, well, you qualify, you and your wife both qualify to take a defensive driving class, and that'll save you $500 over the course of 3 years. I said, that's
not even close.
You're still at 30% over. Are you gonna, if you can't meet this offer, I'm leaving your company, and
20
that's
would have
that.
been a reason to maybe 20%. I get it.
No, it wouldn't have. Here's the thing, Corey. Car insurance is car insurance.
It's like you're dealing with the local.
The
guy.
likelihood,
No
that you're going to have to deal with your current car insurance company to make a claim is very small, very small. You're more likely to crash in a Malaysian airliner than you are to have to deal with your current
nice
car insurance company. You like that? Yeah, it's very topical.
Yeah, all right.
So, needless to say, I'm now with Flo.
Oh God, you went from
I know. I went from the company
gross.
with moderately entertaining commercials to the company with commercials that make me want to shoot things. But they saved me 50%.
No, that's a lot. That's a fair amount.
Yeah.
I was doing a little research. On motorcycle insurance, even with my my driving record.
Oh, are you?
And still incredibly affordable.
Motorcycle insurance is dirt cheap. Do you know why? They don't get a lot of claims.
Yeah. Okay.
Generally, when you wipe on a bike, you don't make a claim.
Well, yeah, not unless you need some medical.
And if you do make a claim, it's cheaper to repair a bike. The damage that bike is going to do to the car,
and the odds of you killing somebody else,
right,
are slim.
Right. Did you hear there was a motorcycle fatality over the weekend?
I know people who drove by it.
I was driving by it.
Yeah, I know. We know the same people. Actually.
Oh yeah, they probably come from the same thing.
The exact same.
Yeah.
Thing.
Some douchebag it was raining, and this douchebag was driving way too fast, as we all do.
Oh yeah,
we all drive too fast on
man.
bikes. I do it too, but not with a passenger.
Oh, never.
He lost his passenger, his wife, and she died. She fell off the back because he was weaving in and out of traffic. He was fishing.
Driving like a dick.
Yeah.
Not trying
in the rain. In the rain. On 590 at the Can of Worms.
Do you know what I see responsible motorcyclists, even hardcore bikers? Do you know what I see them do in the rain?
Slow the fuck down.
Most of them I see pull over under an underpass.
Yeah, if you find a bridge and hang out under it.
For a little while and see if maybe the rain lets up.
Yeah. I've never done that, but it is a perfectly respectable thing to do.
Yeah.
If I had more than
dangerous.
If I had more than a 6-minute commute, I would probably consider doing that myself.
Yeah. Well,
but honestly, for me, it's like
6 minutes.
I'll just go the speed limit.
Be
if you're going 55 or 65 and it's not a torrential downpour, you're going to be fine, especially if you're an experienced rider.
Motorcycles accelerate quickly. They also brake quickly, too.
Yes. Yeah. And they only have 2 wheels on the ground, and only one of them is driving.
Yeah.
And they're much more prone to hydroplaning.
I believe that.
But you just have to be careful.
Drive like I almost did it.
So
Drive like a normal person.
Are you really? You're really gearing up to look at a bike, huh?
I think I've made the decision. I think it's just a time frame now.
What kind of bike do you think you might get?
I'm looking at Honda or Yamaha. Because
cruiser or a street bike?
Nice cruiser.
A cruiser.
Yeah, I can get a starter bike, which I think like a 500.
Yeah,
it's a good little starter bike.
You looking for an older bike?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm only going to spend a couple $100 for the first one.
I don't want to give a free plug to the bike place that I go to, but they have an 80-something Yamaha for a terrific value right now. I have a coupon book right now. They have a big sale going on this weekend.
You can show me what it looks like, but I don't know that I can afford it at the minute. Even a cheap one. I've been looking for some like couple $100 ones.
Oh, all right. This is a little over a couple $100.
I also might be able to at this point. I might be able to get the financing for something like that, but I'm not sure that I have to figure out my financial priorities, as it were.
Yeah, sure thing,
you
man.
know what I'm saying? Especially with the new change of income.
That's another thing that I learned in that Elizabeth Warren book. And by the way, can I tell you? Are you familiar with Elizabeth Warren?
I know a little bit. I know her name. I know a little bit of the work.
All right,
not.
She was
abreast, as it were. Ha 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 ha.
Can I bring you abreast?
Yes.
Okay. Here you go. The listeners, I just cupped my breast and held it towards Corey to bring him abreast. Elizabeth Warren. Yeah. She was a Harvard bankruptcy lawyer. She taught bankruptcy law at Harvard.
Okay.
And then when the financial crash came and the restructuring went down, she worked for the Congressional Oversight Program. The people
committee.
It was COP.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It was a committee. They were a
I always heard the Congressional Oversight Committee.
Yeah, you do hear that. This was something
different,
very specific.
Okay.
Her job was to oversee the dealings with the bailouts.
Okay, the federal bailout
With the federal
the automotive and banking industry.
Her job was to oversee the administration of these bailouts.
Okay.
However, her committee was given no authority to do anything.
That'll work.
Well, because it's a
committee of bullshit.
Not the committee. The committee was not bullshit. The people on that committee wanted to do a good job, but they couldn't because they were not allowed to. You have to be given authority.
It certainly seems like a noble cause.
And they were not given any authority. So, like the bailouts, we all know the bailouts were a fucking disaster. We gave $800 billion to banks that robbed themselves.
Does that make them political martyrs?
Who?
The people that worked so hard on something that meant absolutely nothing?
Well, it kind of did, but now but then she was like, she helped to institute the new Federal Consumer Protection Agency for credit stuff, for things like that. But the people on the inside, the people who basically were the Republicans, there's some Democrats too, but the Republicans would not allow her to be in charge of this because they knew that she wasn't going to play ball with them because she's not there to play ball. She's an actually for the people person. So after she didn't get the job with the Consumer Protection Agency, the Credit Protection Agency,
yeah,
she ran for the Senate seat in Massachusetts, and she won it. And so now she's a senator in the U.S. Senate.
Okay.
I'll tell you right now.
I got a lot of backstory here. There better be some.
Here's why you need to pay attention to Elizabeth Warren.
Okay.
There's a presidential election coming up. And if you're a registered Democrat, if you're out there and you're a registered Democrat and the primaries come around and it's Hillary Clinton or Elizabeth Warren,
vote Warren.
Warren
I'm gonna tell you
is
right now.
for the people. Hillary Clinton is for the same bullshit that we've had. She will be Bush the Fourth.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I don't even necessarily know the politics at this moment. You know what I'm saying? But I know that I'm tired of electing the same names.
Yeah, that too.
Over and over again. And that should tell you something.
That too.
You know what I mean?
We've had, since Bush the First, who was really Reagan the Second, we've had Clinton, who did some good things.
Kennedy
but his deregulation...
He
wishes he was Kennedy twice removed.
Twice removed. Okay. To the 12th?
His deregulation policies and his free trade policies put us more on the track to where we are now than Reagan and Bush did. And after him, we all know we had George W. Bush, who the Supreme Court put in power. Did you know we didn't elect him?
I did know that, actually.
He lost
I was there. I witnessed it happen.
He lost by 500,000 votes in the popular vote, and if there had been a Florida recount, he would have lost the electorate too. But the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, ruled that it would be detrimental to his character to recount the Florida votes.
Detrimental to a single man's character.
That's what they ruled. In a 5-4 vote, the U.S. Supreme Court installed a president that did not win the election.
Can I ask you a question? How much money do you think that costs? Oh, boy.
A gross amount, for sure.
Oh, boy.
But only to you and me, to some fucking Johnny Banker? Oh, pissing change. It cost pissing change. You spend $1 million to make $1 billion. That's 1,000% profit.
I think, but okay. Yeah, you're right.
I am right. That's how it works with the banks. That's how it works. They have so much. All right. Full disclosure, I'm on like my 5th book about this in a row. So I'm a little grossed out with the banks these days. They spend $1 million to make $1 billion. And that's how it works. It's just how it works. Maybe they spend $1 billion, they make $100 billion. Sometimes they make $1 trillion. You know, private corporations.
sometimes they launder drugs, and they only get fined 10% of what they made.
Currently,
laundering them.
Currently, U.S.-based corporations are sitting on $2 trillion in cash. They're just sitting on it. You know why? Because they know shit's about to hit the fan.
But shit hits the fan. Shit hits the fan enough, and that cash they're sitting on means dick.
To you and me, it does, but to them, they'll still be able to. There will still be people who feel that cash is worth something. But to the people who can't get any of it, you're right. It is dick.
Worth dick.
It is worth dick. But if you can get a little of it, it's suddenly not worth dick anymore. And if you can have access to the people with a lot of it,
the people who have a lot of it don't have the things that are going to matter. Supposing the shit really hits fan, and I mean really hits the fan, lights off kind of hits the fan.
Well, and if it does hit that fan, those people will have fences and guards.
Farmers with guns are going to be the people that are best suited at this moment. Because you can have all the money you want. If you're hungry, it ain't going to mean a damn thing. You can't eat it.
The people with the Tomahawk missiles will still accept cash. It's hard to beat a Tomahawk missile as a farmer with a gun. I'm just saying. I mean, just to provide a counterpoint. So anyway, with Elizabeth Warren, in her book, All You're Worth, or did you want to continue going on our post-apocalyptic nightmare?
No, fair.
I mean, there'll be time enough for that in about 10 years. You just... So
no, we'll do that in the third break.
We don't do breaks.
Oh, shit, that's right.
In her book, All You're Worth, which is like a guide to how to steer your family in a financially secure way, she talks about the 50-30-20 rule. And what that is like
how you split your back seat,
how you split your money, your income, your after-tax income. This was my family already followed this rule pretty well, but to have it put down by somebody who's well qualified to put it down.
And I'm interested in hearing this because I've always been a straight economics guy.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
Economics works at any level. The rules that work for pennies works for billions.
Right.
She
actually brings that up. She says people tell you to cut every penny, but that's not important. She says dollars are worth more than pennies. So go ahead and buy your Mountain Dew every day if that's what makes you happy. But make sure that your must-haves, your rent, your electricity, your recurring monthly bills that are must-haves should not... Anything that you have recurring monthly is a must-have. It shouldn't exceed 50% of your take-home pay.
Real quick, give me the breakdown again.
50, 30, 20.
What is that? 50, can you give me a real quick and then we'll get detailed?
50% of your take-home pay should go to your must-haves.
Okay.
30% is your fun money.
Fun money and 20.
You're walking around cash. 20
savings.
is your savings.
Savings, okay.
Now, I was blown away that only 20. And then I was like, well, what about debt? She was like, well, here's the thing. Get out of debt. Use your savings. No, it's not. It's actually this 20% that you would use for savings until you're out of debt.
Is to pay off debt.
Apply that 20% to your savings,
which is virtually
to your debt.
Which is virtually savings.
No, it's not virtually nothing. If you have $500 saved up in the bank and $1,500 on a credit card with a 24% interest rate,
you're -$1,000.
You're not just negative $1,000. You're negative $1,000 with a 24% interest rate.
Whoa!
You cannot save money while you're paying interest. Get rid of your credit cards.
Yeah, that's true.
First and foremost, pay yourself. I mean, it's okay to keep a credit card on hand, but it's better to keep cash on hand.
Back to that, maybe pennies was the wrong example, but back to good for $1, good for $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
If it's in debt, if it's in negative interest,
yeah.
It's not saved.
Right.
It's earning negative equity.
Right. You're actually you're indebted. You're in
earning negative equity.
Correct. Absolutely correct. So I was like, I really enjoyed this book, and I got to tell you, anybody who's listening and you're looking for something to give you a little bit of waypoint, it's easy to get lost without a compass. This is a kind of compass book. Elizabeth Warren, All You're Worth. I recommend it. I've read 2 books by her, that being one. I intend to read a 3rd book by her. Great reads.
That's one of the advantages I have. Maybe I'll look into doing something more along these lines.
Also, for her audiobooks...
My percentages were different, but I feel that... I'm sorry. my percentages were different, but I feel that this percentage-based thing is something I was naturally doing just a little bit differently.
Everybody does it a little bit. Like, we were pretty close. You know, our must-haves in my household are a little over 50%. Like, they're markedly. We have a little problem with must-haves in my house, but it's because we just recently took on a bunch of debt.
Well, and you know what I mean? And I hope I hope you don't take this any kind of offensively, because it's not at all.
I'm so offended.
You're kind of new to living a life of must-haves.
Yes.
Before your current situation, your must-haves was dinner.
Well, it was still rent. Yeah, rent, electricity.
Nah, you're in a different lifestyle. You're in a different tax bracket. You're making a couple extra dollars. So now your must-haves have gone up because you've lived like a poor person your whole life.
I've been in this tax bracket for about 8 years now.
Okay, how old are you?
30-something.
Do you see the difference?
Sure.
There's
Oh,
a big
yeah, no,
different
for sure.
number
But I mean,
there.
I've spent, at this point, I've spent more adult time in this tax bracket than out of it.
Well, you know what? And that's why probably at this time you're trying to like work yourself towards a more stable
Yeah,
position.
no, man. I'm
Where
not getting any younger.
Up until this, you were working up the hill on what you were spending. I can afford this, and I can afford this, and I can afford this, and I'm kind of out of shit I can afford.
Here's the thing. You can think what you want about Social Security. You're welcome to think what you
I
want
hope
about
it's
it.
there when we need it.
But do you want to count on it?
No.
Or would you rather know that you're okay and having Social Security would be a great boon to you?
That's the plan.
That's the plan I'd like to have too. And I think that like I did a whole show of something to talk about with a financial planner.
Yeah.
And that was very helpful, but I found something more helpful.
Catch something to talk about on any AirWreck radio stream.
That's right.
Anywhere you hear this show, you can hear something to talk about.
Yeah, this past week, something to talk about. We talked to AirWreckRadio's #1 fan, Angela Shu.
And I hear you're putting up some numbers.
And we talked about her job. She works at the local pornography store.
Yeah, good.
And we got a bunch of great stories out of her. So please feel free to
awesome.
listen to that shit.
She's so awesome.
I love talking shop with working people. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's got great work stories. Now you think you got great work stories?
I have some pretty good ones.
Wait until your customers are trying to buy things to put in themselves or their loved ones.
Fair enough.
Then you have great work stories. Angela Shaw had great work stories. Listen to that episode of Something to Talk About. Do it. I'm telling you, you want to hear me be uncomfortable? Listen to that episode.
Oh, God, I'm so going to listen.
Because I don't like to do the booty talk and the stuff like, but I'm capable of it. You know, like obviously I'm well versed in sexual education, but it still was like.
It's not the same thing.
It's not.
Of sexual entertainment.
Exactly. It's not the kind of thing that I generally like to talk about. It was nice to get out of my corner for a little while.
It's one thing to know how the plumbing works. It's another to enjoy the hot water.
When I reached out to her, yeah, exactly. Yes. When I reached out to her, she was like, okay, but I'm not talking politics with you. And I was like, oh no. What am I going to talk about? It's all I know anymore.
But it's something to talk about. And employment and employers and employees and employees' rights are all part of the grand scheme. Something to talk about with Stacey.
So while we're talking
here
about
on
that,
AirWreckRadio.com.
Anybody out there who works, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. I want to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I want you to talk to me. I want your input. If you think that the things that I say are out of base, I want to know that. I want to know that because you can't find center if nobody's pulling against you.
If I come in with notes and I promise to be serious, can I come on Something to Talk About?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Corey. You and I can do something to talk about. That's fine.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be weird. It'd be very uncomfortable.
I'll come prepared, and I'll make sure that I'm dead serious, no dick jokes.
Do you know when I record something to talk about, I close my computer?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's good.
It's not for computers. It's not. There's no notes. It's just sit down and talk about stuff.
Well, I will have to have some kind of noting, or I will revert back to dick jokes when I'm out of things to say. And that's
fair enough.
I told you I'd be serious. So.
So. Listen to Something to Talk About.
Anywhere you can hear this show, you can hear Something to Talk About.
And buy Elizabeth Warren's All You're Worth. And
you can't get that anywhere you hear the show. But
no,
you can
can't.
get it on Amazon, I'm sure.
You can get it on Amazon. You can get it used on Amazon. Do you know how much a used book costs on Amazon?
Pennies.
$5 with shipping.
Can I ask you a favor?
Sure.
If you're going to buy the book on Amazon,
Go through the mental overload.
either go through mental overload because I know where those dollars are going, and they're going to good guys who are here on the ROC Podcast Network, or do me a favor and Google Podcast Defense Fund.
What's that?
Adam Carolla, who is probably one of the biggest #1 podcasters.
Oh, is he the guy? He's getting sued by that
He's the one
douchebag.
who's fighting the podcast, the patent troll.
Dick. Not Adam Carolla, the patent troll.
And he's fighting. He's fighting to the bitter end.
Is it Gene Simmons? Because he's a patent troll.
He certainly is.
Did you know you can't draw, like, if
High
AirWreckRadio...
school kids in the 80s are screwed.
If AirWreckRadio released an album art that was a bag of money with a $sign on it, we would have to pay Gene Simmons to use that image.
What a bitch.
Yeah, what a bitch. What a piece of shit.
Monopoly can't even do that. They're just empty bags. The Monopoly, they don't have the $sign on them.
Yeah, because Gene Simmons realized that nobody had patented that image, and so he patented it.
Dollar bill show.
Dick.
Oh, what a piece of shit.
Dick.
Okay.
All right, so you were talking about the Podcast Defense Fund.
Yeah, I don't have the link pulled up right in front of me because it just popped into my head. But you can easily Google it. You go to Amazon, do your business as normal, and a little bit of peace, a little love, a little envelope,
Some crumbs.
some crumbs,
As
the
our
boys
friends at
would
Mental
say.
Overload would say.
Slide on down to the Podcast Defense Fund, and why this is important to anybody who listens to podcasts, and I'll tell you why. You're gonna find that if this guy wins versus Adam, that they will either be able to sue you for doing it, or they will be able to charge you a monthly fee for doing it. Now, the ridiculous part is the patent is against podcasting specifically.
No, it's the episodic.
It's the episodic release
Yeah.
of content on the internet.
God, that's ridiculous.
If it comes out in an episode 1, episode 2, or a part 1, or an issue 1, or whatever, it's covered under this patent. Now, this guy, what they're doing is because they've already won a giant patent conflict with Apple for the iTunes playlist because of 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's so
release.
fucking gross.
And Apple just paid him out because Apple's got the money to just pay him out.
Sure.
Apple's paid him
Yeah.
out.
Oh, yeah.
Get off my back.
Yeah. Way to fight the good fight, you fucking douchebags.
A company that could have crushed this guy. But he won. He got like $8-9
Dicks.
million.
Fucking,
So
they'll
now they're
sue the
using
shit out of
that.
Sony for having the same. Oh, your phone's rectangle. We have a patent on rectangles. We'll sue you. But then when they get sued, it's fucking bow down to the mighty fucking patent
here's
troll.
Money. Here's some money. Go away. Here's some money. Don't fuck with me.
Bunch of fucking bullshit. I have a point about this. You go ahead and make yours first.
So basically, Apple gave him $8 million he could use to sue Adam Carolla and any other of the major podcasters to try to, extort
we're
money out of
safe.
podcasters. Well, for now, we're safe, dude.
Good news, we're safe.
Until Adam Carolla and Mark Maron and
I would
these
just
guys
stop numbering
lose.
it.
No. It still won't matter. It's the episodic release. Titles count.
Then we won't title our shows.
So what do we write in the podcast heading when we release the podcast? What do you write there?
Dear listener, this is not a podcast. What you're listening to is a recorded and released weekly thing, but only because it happens to be weekly and it is legally distinct from a podcast.
Like the blogs are going to be at risk for this.
Oh, that's absurd.
Anything. that
You know what's
released-
fucked up?
You know what might if you have a television series like I mentioned to you, we were talking earlier off mic about Jim Norton's got a Vice.com television series coming up where every week or whatever he's got a guest and he does a late night talk show thing.
You know what they
That'd
used
be
to
an
do?
episodic release and he'd be covered under this.
You know what they used to do with trolls?
Keep them under the bridges and feed them goats.
No, when they found them under bridges, they stuck them with pointy ends of swords and killed them.
Yeah, well, that's what you get for being a troll.
Right. That's what you get for being a troll. You're leading to the breakdown. You need to be eliminated.
Whoa, people are listening.
Hey, I'm not saying that this guy needs to be killed, but
Eliminated.
perhaps
Dun dun dun.
you don't have to stop somebody's heart to kill. You know what I mean? understand that what I mean is not you have to kill this guy like physically, but like
You want Batman to break in, hold him over a railing, get him to admit that he's wrong.
crush him somehow so that he realizes that this is a mistake, and so other trolls like him realize that this is not how we behave in civil society.
And again, a guy like Adam Grohl, maybe he's got some cash, but he ain't got the cash to crush this guy. But Apple had an opportunity.
I wanted to talk about
Apple had
something
an opportunity to beat this guy into the ground. I'm sorry, go on.
along these same lines. I wanted to talk about something about cash. What was that? Where do you go to so that you can do your
defense fund? Google it.
Because I spend a lot of money on Amazon. Like I do, like the things that
Me
most people
too.
buy from Walmart, I buy from Amazon.
The upcoming studio upgrades
Yeah, all of our stuff,
are all going to come from Amazon.
all of our stuff came from Amazon. So
Certainly
like,
did.
I spend a lot with Amazon because I don't fucking like Walmart.
Yeah, no, I'd rather give to Amazon than Walmart.
Sticky note time.
Yay!
It's time for a sticky note.
Ooh, we had a segue.
The 6 heirs to Walmart, the Walton 6 heirs,
Okay, huh?
6 people, 6 individuals have more money than the bottom 42% of Americans. The average Walmart employee costs the taxpayer about $1,300 a year.
These people have so much money, you've never heard of them.
Right. That's how much money they have, the Waltons.
You know who the Waltons are because everyone knows Walmart. Well, I guess not everybody does, but now they do. They heard it from here, live on AirWreckRadio. But, you know, like the Kardashians, they're rich, and all these people are rich, and, you know, you hear about the people that are, like, at that famous level rich.
There are
But
almost
this is so rich, nobody ever heard of you.
there are almost no Walmart employees that don't qualify as bottom 42% of America.
And the ones that don't are probably all corporate office people.
These 6 people have more wealth than the bottom 42%. 6 people have 6 individual human beings have more than almost half of everybody else. Like the bottom 42% is almost half of everybody. That is the 42% of 100 and
Let me add perspective. Because people are thinking, yeah, okay, the bottom 42%. Maybe they're thinking poverty level people. This is more than the people who are making $250,000 a year.
126 million people.
More than 126 million, who a lot of them
These
are making
6
more than $250,000 a year.
Each one of these 6 people, each individual of these 6 people controls more wealth than the combined total of 126 million individuals.
What was that? About 80 people percent the control 50% of the
Yeah,
world's wealth?
80 people control. It's disgusting. And our Supreme Court,
Money hoarding.
yeah, $2 trillion. They're just sitting on these corporations.
They couldn't
sitting
spend
on
it.
No, it's not. They could invest it, but they don't.
They
Instead,
could give it to their employees.
They could also do that. They could do what trickle down economics is disgusting. I have words that are not allowed in polite society about Ronald Reagan and trickle down economics.
Do any of them involve the word cunt?
Well, Ronald Reagan was shot once.
It's okay. So that's a point, right? Like,
So they kind of extrapolate
in his
from
favor. All right, fair enough. I see. Okay, maybe it balances. There's a point in the counter. Somebody felt like shooting him, and there's a point on the other side is that motherfucker got shot and he still ran on being on. That's kind of
Ronald Reagan did a lot of good things. He did, his foreign policy was good. He brought about the end of the Cold War.
Well,
I don't think
he was there when the Cold War ended.
That's certainly true.
Well,
If it wasn't for Richard Nixon's work, the Cold War wouldn't have ended under Ronald Reagan.
It also would have had something, if you're even willing to argue the Cold War ended, it's still something to even understand that.
If you're even willing to argue that World War II ended.
Okay, fair enough. A lot of that had to do with the Soviets' terrible business strategy. And maybe less to do with our...
Was it any worse than our own?
Apparently it was a couple of degrees worse.
No, it
because
just broke
we
down
out.
faster.
Well, that means at least a couple of degrees,
See,
right?
There's two kinds
That's
of
a point or two.
There's two kinds of communism, and
All right.
their kind of communism trod heavily on the people, and so it couldn't last. The kind of communism that we're facing is a tyranny from the top, and it is equally failable.
Listen, you socialist pig.
Yeah, socialist is
down.
okay.
Well, it seems okay on paper.
No, it seems okay in actuality. The socialist nations are doing pretty all
They're
right.
doing better. But I'm still not
Denmark,
convinced that-
Sweden, doing great. Fully socialist, doing great. Their longevity is better. Their
That's
quality
true.
of life is better.
That's
Their
true.
education is better. Their
That's
work
true.
prospect is better.
Also
When they
true.
don't have jobs, they're better taken care of.
Also true.
Their education is better.
Also true.
Every single aspect of their life is better, except for one key aspect.
They're not
They pay high
America.
taxes.
They're not American.
Yeah, that's right. They don't have the 4th of July in Denmark. True. They don't have the 4th of July in Denmark.
Thank you for picking that up smoothly.
But what they do have is socialized medicine. They have health care for everybody. They have unemployment benefits that are outstanding, and everybody wins. Everybody wins.
I've also heard some horror stories.
Oh, regale me.
I'm not regaling you.
Would you please? Do
No,
you have one?
I don't have the because this was an
Then
off
you
the,
haven't heard anything.
Oh, blow me.
No,
This was an off the cuff subject. I don't have any research available in front of me. No.
Okay.
We were just sitting here
All right.
talking. Maybe next week, if I remember, I'll bring some research to the goddamn table.
I would like to hear
But
some horror stories
I
from
have
Denmark.
definitely- not from Denmark, but from socialistic societies in the past. Italy, World War II. Socialistic society. People were starving to death. But
During
the trains-
World War II.
but the
Really,
train-
Europeans were starving during World War II.
But the trains ran on time.
They certainly did.
Yeah, that's something, right? Points?
I guess.
Okay.
I will give you some I guess points.
Remind me on Twitter at CPainRun to do the research for that, and I'll bring it back next week.
I will
That'll
try
be
to.
fun. We'll do it the AirWreckRadio, I don't know, recap or something. It'd be nice if we followed up from things from time to time.
It would
We've
be-
only ever done that one episode
It would be good to do every now and then.
to follow up with some things.
So, Corey, as we move along, while we're talking about socialism, I would like to talk about healthcare.
Okay, hold on.
actually-
Let me turn my head around here, and I'm in. Let's
You know
go.
what? I got sidetracked. You were talking about your defend podcasting
Yeah, we got
rights. What was that again?
Podcast Defense Fund
That. You were talking about that, and I wanted to talk about something that was,
related.
I think, more important, but only to me
Okay,
and to every human being on Earth.
okay, but not our show.
No.
The podcast fund clearly.
Are you familiar with the Wolf Pack, PAC, the Political Action Committee Wolf Pack? Have you
I'm
ever?
familiar with the name, but not really. Like I couldn't give you any details about their evilness or their corruption, which I'm sure you're going to come forth with now.
No.
And spewing, go.
In fact, the opposite.
Ooh,
So,
that's a change of pace.
political action committees are places where the wealthy give all their money, well, not all their money, tiny portions of their huge money,
Giant hordes of
millions
money,
of
you
dollars
fucking
from their
scumbags.
billions of dollars. They give to political action committees who help to push forward agendas in the federal government, so that you have congressmen that are bought by the Marble Man, basically.
Everybody enjoys Marble Red, good old cowboy killer.
The Wolf Pack is the political action committee of the Young Turks. Are you familiar with the Young Turks?
Again, I know some of their work on the Tube of You and their position on many political subjects because of their skit work.
The Young Turks got put in a position much like Elizabeth Warren got put in a position. Somebody on the inside,
On the alternative side of the spectrum.
at one point sat down with the founder of the Young Turks and said, listen, you can be on the inside or you can be on the outside. The difference is, on the inside, people will listen to you, but you can't talk about other insiders. You'll do the news stories we tell you to.
Do.
Exactly.
On the outside, nobody's going to listen to you.
But people will get to hear your ideas. But people will get to... You'll do what we tell you, but people will get to hear your ideas. On the outside,
nobody's listening.
You're on your own. Incorrect. Not nobody's listening. I'm listening.
Our listeners are listening.
To me, and I listen to them.
Our listeners are listening because they're part of the alternative media. They're part of
Correct.
the movement.
Correct. So I want to bring something important to their hearing. The Wolf Pack, wolf-pack.com, I think is the website, but I don't actually know that. What you do, you go there, you give a little money. Listen, I know that money is tight. But it's not going to get less tight. This is the best investment you can make. What the Wolfpack is doing is they're trying to organize states to have a constitutional convention.
Really?
And they've got 2 states.
I'm listening.
They currently have California,
the most liberal,
and Vermont.
Also very liberal.
2 big states.
Very big states.
Very big states.
However, Vermont very small, but very important.
They need money.
How about New York?
Oh, New York does what California does. You get Iowa on board on this? If you
it's
get
a wrap.
Iowa on board,
caucuses are in, baby.
it's fucking done. Right. Exactly. What the Wolfpack wants a constitutional convention about is to clarify the difference between natural persons and corporation persons, artificial persons. Because
what show would you have heard talk like that on before?
Well, you would have heard it on this show.
There you go. Moving on.
See, the Constitution currently allows for 2 kinds of personhoods. And this has become a fundamental flaw.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's another classification other than person?
In order to...
there's 2 persons other than...
Corporations...
human Americanized citizens?
Corporations were granted a kind of personhood under the Founders' Constitution, under the original documentation, the Constitution.
And I can see that.
Because they need... Here's the thing. You can't do business with a tree. You can't do business with a dog. You do business with a person. And so corporations were allowed a level of personhood. But their personhood does not extend to the Bill of Rights. That's not what the founders intended. But that's what the Supreme Court has been making. In 1865, Santa Clara County versus, I can't remember the other end of that, the Supreme Court ruled that corporations aren't people. And they said, we're not even going to talk about that right now. We're going to rule on this, and it's going to be against that decision. But the clerk, the court clerk in that Supreme Court hearing put a header in that said, basically, corporations are people. And so justices have used that as a justification.
His footnote?
Head note.
Whatever.
Yeah. Exactly. What's the difference, right?
Well, it's a note.
A clerk.
It's an asterisk by a clerk who wanted to make sure he was following what the fuck was happening.
But he was wrong.
Well, you know what? Students often are.
He was wrong about what they said. Like, if you read the case is very clear. The court elected not to decide on corporate personhood, but did make a decision in the case that went against the corporate interests. And the clerk still managed to put a head note that has been referenced by justices ever since to grant more and more rights, ending in Citizens United. More and more rights have been granted to corporations, and the Wolfpack wants a constitutional convention that we need an amendment to the Constitution that clarifies what is a person.
And that's absolutely, I see that that's needed. And I can see where the founding fathers were coming from when they were like, okay, we have to be able to protect corporations.
Yeah, no,
because they're just as susceptible to, and now you got to think that these people are trying to devise a system that's against a king's rule. Now, maybe the system was borrowed upon from different kinds of systems, kind of smashed together.
Yeah, our system is a conglomerate system.
Oh, other systems smashed together. But you got to think that they're thinking in counter of a single ruler rule, which is what they just fought through to gain their independence of. And an individual is as susceptible as to a ruler's taxes, Boston Tea Party, tax on tea, as a corporation is. I mean, a corporation is just as susceptible to that hold of government. Any government, specifically, single ruler government.
I must counter. Go ahead and finish your thought.
Okay. So I can see where the founding fathers thought that protecting corporations from illegal taxation and illegal rule, illegal govern, was an important thing to add to our democratic republic.
The Boston Tea Party is a terrific example that you drew up, or that you pulled up. That was not against the crown.
That was against illegal representation or taxation without representation.
Was the cry, but that was because the East India Company, founded by Elizabeth I, had been given this gigantic tax break because all of the people who ran England were owners of the East India Corporation, and that crushed America's local tea, which was a huge business. Like, it was a big business, and it gave this corporation, this foreign corporation, he had such tax rights, and the colonists were like, that's it, we're done. We're done being subjugated by this East India Trading Corporation.
Can I throw a little trivia at you? Guess what organization was around in the same industry at the same time that you could still buy terrible products from today?
I don't know.
The Oriental Trading Companies.
The Oriental Express?
Sure.
I don't think that's what they were called.
No.
No.
Not at all. But I like Oriental Express, and if that's not already a pre-used term, that's definitely the episode.
No, that's definitely that's not the title. Are you kidding me? That's not nearly as worth the title as other things that I might title this episode.
Oh.
In fact, I would think other things that I might title this episode might be the title of this episode. I like it. I'm sold. So, healthcare. Corey, healthcare.
Wow, what a segue. Good job.
Yes, you like that?
Yeah.
It's blunt. Speaking of blunt, have you ever heard of the Blunt Amendment?
No.
No, you haven't. You know why? Didn't make it. February 2012, the Blunt Amendment, an amendment to the Constitution, was proposed by Republicans. The amendment would have allowed businesses or healthcare companies to deny coverage for any medical service if it cited any vague moral objection to such coverage. Basically, the Blunt Amendment, as the Republicans who were trying to put it through called it in 2012, would have allowed medical companies, healthcare companies, or businesses to deny healthcare coverage for any service if it said that it was against their religion.
Hobby Lobby?
Isn't that prescient? So before Hobby Lobby started a Supreme Court battle over it, there was already Republicans working towards getting this as an amendment so that corporations would have rights. And it was voted down. Thank God it was. Corporations are not entitled to the same rights as human beings, natural human beings. That's not what the founders meant. It's so very clear based on the fact that our whole revolution was against a corporation. Our entire American Revolution was against a single corporation more than it was against the English crown. Thomas Jefferson wrote a treatise on how we could be good citizens of the British crown. We were good to be British citizens until this corporation was given so much power. Corporations are not people. People have been fighting for this for 300 years, and America is where that fight started, and now it's going to end. And if it doesn't end on the side of the human being, we're fucked. And our generation is going to see that end. And we need to start seeing, if you're out there and you're listening and you agree with what I say, learn some shit. And if you still agree with what I say, give some money to the Wolf Pack. Write your congressmen, your senators, Do the things, the due processes that are there for us. Do those things.
And then take a screen cap and send it to @AWR Stacey on Twitter.
You're right. I would like the
Stace Coast on Twitter.
I would like the vindication, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
But more important than vindicating me. If you hear what I'm saying and
Wait
you
a
agree
minute.
with it.
You think there's things that's more important than you?
I do. I
You
absolutely
heard it
do.
here, folks.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Mark it on the calendars. Somebody at work today was like,
I love you. I'm sorry.
one of the guys that I work with was I was walking in their general direction and they were like, "Yo, you're a handsome bastard." I was like, "I know." Because that's the only way I know how to respond to that is to verify it, right? You don't want to be argumentative when somebody gives you
How about thank you? How
You're
about that
welcome.
one? How about no? How about hey, you're a handsome bastard? Well, thank you very much, sir.
You're
Not
welcome,
so
Corey.
bad yourself.
You're welcome.
Okay, but I know versus thank you.
You're welcome.
Stop saying you're welcome.
But stop saying thank you.
I'm just saying, might have been an appropriate response to you're a good-looking bastard. Well, thank you very much.
You're probably right. You're welcome, by the
You
way.
too, sir.
You're probably correct. I only because, listen, when I was a kid, I
Defense
was not a
mechanism,
handsome bastard.
We get it.
I was goofy looking as shit. I had, poor people glasses and fucking big-ass buck teeth. A lot like my daughters, actually. I just was not... my lips were too big. I was convinced that I was never, ever going to be a good-looking person. I know I'm talking to you about my lips being too big.
I'm stopping myself. I'm stopping myself from being an evil person. I really... if there is a heaven, I want to go to it. That's all I want to...
Speaking of healthcare, since we're that blunt amendment,
Obamacare.
that blunt amendment thing,
What about blunts? We gonna roll some blunts up in this motherfucker?
hell no, man, we're professionals. We can't do that on the air. That blunt amendment thing, that was one of the sticky notes that we are saying goodbye to. My desktop just got a little cleaner.
Oh, we're like 3 subjects cleaner, aren't we, at this point?
No. Moving on in healthcare to
And
another.
now we are.
You'll recall that during the healthcare Supreme Court case, I had said, why do we expect employers to pay for healthcare? And I kind of came around to their point of view. In that particular episode, I kind of came around and I was like, you know what? Why do we expect small businesses to pay for healthcare?
I'm not sure.
And I still agree with that. I still don't understand. Now I understand why, and I'm going to regale you
The problem
with.
is not that your employer doesn't provide you with affordable health care. The problem is that affordable health care is not obtainable. Period.
Good point.
Period.
That is a very good point.
If it were attainable, then it probably wouldn't be put down onto the employer because people would just have it because they could afford it.
And that's because we subsidize medicine with our taxes. Like, healthcare gets huge tax money already. They just get it. Like, we pay taxes and the government subsidizes healthcare.
It's called
not
poor
healthcare.
people.
Not Medicare, not Medicaid, not that. No, the pharmaceutical industry. Research.
Okay, that's different.
We subsidize so much of that.
What I was talking about
I know what you were talking about.
was poor people who have no coverage going to the emergency room to be taken care of.
But
There's a lot of subsidy going on there.
much more expensive than that is the amount we pay the pharmaceutical companies to research medicines or whatever we pay them for. We give them so much money and they don't give back anything. Their contribution is all for sale. The taxpayer pays them to research. The benefits of that research should be reaped by the taxpayer for the price of what the taxpayer already pays. But instead, they sell it back to the taxpayer as private citizens. That's fucking ridiculous. If you want to sell it back to us, Do the research on your own, assholes. We'll all be worse off, but at least it'll be fair. At least we'll all be playing in the same game. You want to do your own fucking research? You want to hoard the results of the taxpayer research and sell it back to the individuals? Fine. We're going to stop subsidizing you, and you go ahead and do that. And then everybody will be worse off. Or, conversely, the taxpayer can subsidize your research, which is a necessary expenditure. I believe in this. And you can share back the benefits of that research that the taxpayer paid for. Or you can go fuck.
Here's my position. As your fellow podcaster and co-host, I have nothing for you. I agree with everything you say. The only thing I could possibly bring up at this moment would be just argumentative bullshit of, well, tell me how we get there. And now, maybe it's not argumentative bullshit because that's the end goal, but I don't necessarily expect you to have the answer offhand.
I have an answer for that.
Well, then why did we have to go through this? Just tell us the answer.
Because in order to make a pyramid strong, you have to have a strong base. And sometimes that base is built with stories, and I had to put down the story. Here's what people need to do. People need to just spend a little bit of time becoming a little bit better informed so that they can make a little bit better arguments. And then people need to recognize it takes more than reading newspapers and watching the news. If you do both of those things, you're doing great. But you need to expose yourself to a little bit deeper level than that. You need to have a stronger understanding of where tax money goes. And you're not going to get that from the news. The news doesn't put things in context. It's not the news's job to provide context these days. The news's job is to barrage you with story after story so that you are like completely befuddled when you come away from watching the news. When you watch the news, you walk away from it feeling like things are so fucking horrible and you have no idea how it got here. Read books. Books will tell you how it got here. Knowing how it got here will help us change where it's going.
The history and bound to repeat it.
Exactly. The news doesn't teach history. The news talks about how Iraq is a mess right now, but it doesn't talk about why it's a mess. Iraq is a mess because it's fucking a made-up country. It's not a real place. It's a conglomerate of the leftovers of 3 different real places that had 3 different kinds of societies. And after World War I, the British and the French drew lines on the map over the Middle East and said, all right, you're going to be Iraq. And that's just how it's going to be. And those imperialist powers purposefully made it so that that country would be fighting itself. Because you know what a country does when it fights itself? It doesn't fight its imperialist overlords.
Yeah. That's a simple divide and conquer technique.
So if you know just a little bit of history, then you can know Iraq is a mess because it's meant to be a mess.
And who gave them the guns?
The Western powers.
We did.
Including ourselves. Sure. Oh, yeah. Our arms dealers. Yeah. Listen, we pay a ton of foreign aid to Israel and all of the countries that surround it. We pay also. So we pay Israel to defend itself, and we pay the other countries to attack Israel. And we call that good foreign policy. But without a little deeper history understanding, just without a slightly better understanding of history, the average news watcher doesn't understand why it's so fucked up. But you give them just a little bit of history, suddenly it all starts to make sense. But the news isn't there to give us history. Now, what got us here was I was talking about why we expect our employers to give us health care. And
is that where we started?
That is where we started. I actually ran into this.
Welcome to the new break-free format, folks.
The day after the Supreme Court decision, the show that we did that Tuesday, I was already reading a book And it just happened to come up in that book the next day, why we expect employers to provide health insurance. During World War II, companies weren't allowed to offer raises, so to attract new employees, companies began to offer benefits like paid time off, retirement, and health care.
Fair enough. Makes sense. They're all under government contract. They can't raise wages because that'll raise the price
all
of
the manufacturers,
contract.
All the manufacturers had been converted to wartime efforts. So in that wartime effort, you couldn't compete with wages. You couldn't pay. If you owned the Chevy plant, you couldn't outbid the Ford plant for employees with wages. Yeah. So instead, they started offering perks like
makes sense.
Time off, vacation time, sick time,
healthcare,
retirement, pensions, and healthcare. In the past, therefore, if a company elected to offer healthcare, that healthcare was part of the employee's base pay. But our recent Supreme Court ruling granted employers of closely held corporations the right to dictate how a portion of their employees' compensation can be spent.
I'm confused. Say that last part again. Closely held?
Closely held. That's what they call them. That's what they call Hobby Lobby. They call them a closely held corporation where only family members own the stock. So there are stockholders, but they're all family. But it's so loosey-goosey, that term.
It's an extremely vague term.
It doesn't have any concrete... Like, the Supreme Court should have never decided something so loose on the ends. That's not what the Supreme Court is for. In fact, the Supreme Court is not for turning over laws. That's not what they're for either. They're for foreign affairs. They're for state v. state. That's what they're for. But they are not for turning over laws. It wasn't until Jefferson died that they started turning over laws. So the Supreme Court recently decided that corporations can dictate part of how an employee spends their base pay, because healthcare is part of an employee's base pay. How long until buying a Mars Milky Way bar is against my religion?
Well, you know,
I don't believe in Mars.
As far as the base pay thing goes, again, that sounds like a great thing, and it probably was until the healthcare system as a whole spun out of control. Now, hospitals, and we use hospitals, charge 4 to 5 times as much as the procedure actually costs, because they know the insurance companies are going to counterbid them on contracts, and every year or every 3 years, whenever the contracts are up. And insurance companies are getting a wholesale rate from hospitals and doctors' organizations. But the problem is the wholesale rate has been so inflated to cover profit that even though the insurance companies are willing to pay an inflated rate that they feel is a discount because it says it on paper, the general payer, the single payer, the guy paying for himself, is subject to these inflated rates.
You know what's fucked up, Corey?
Because of insurance games played by the healthcare industry.
Do you know who is the biggest purchaser of healthcare products in the country?
Lay it on me, brother.
The U.S. government.
Oh, hey, what a surprise.
As part of the negotiations for government healthcare,
okay,
the U.S. government or its subsidiaries is not allowed to bargain for drug prices. They cannot bargain.
Negotiate.
There's
no negotiation.
Yeah, no negotiation. They must pay what the healthcare organizations say it costs.
And then when I say the problem is,
even though they're the biggest purchaser, even though their purchasing power dictates that they should have a bargaining position, they're denied the ability to bargain.
And then when I say that the game is rigged, that the system is twisted, I look like a conspiracy theorist.
Only because the people who think that aren't paying attention.
Game's rigged, folks.
Conspiracies are real things. Here's the thing. You used to be a conspiracy nut if you thought that your phone was listening to you. Good news, everybody. Your phone is listening to you. All the time. Constantly. That brings us to headline news.
Headline news.
That's right, folks. A more stone-cold segue has never been performed on AirWreckRadio
so
before.
much that has shocked the shit out of me.
This is from the USA Today. Former National Security Agency contractor Edward Snowden says the analyst who monitored the texts and emails of millions of Americans would sometimes share intercepted nude photos and sex texts with colleagues.
Huh, I heard this one too.
This is your duh of the week.
No shit. Look at this chick's bush.
Right.
I heard there's a lot of ex-girlfriend going on too. A lot of, I'm going to hack my ex-girlfriend. Look at this bitch. I got access to
Why
all
wouldn't
her
they?
shit.
What's to stop them? Snowden, in a lengthy interview with The Guardian, published this weekend, said that he and his colleagues sometimes doubted the ethics of what they were doing. Quote, many of the people searching through the haystacks of information were young enlisted guys, 18 to 22 years old. In the course of their daily work, they stumbled across something that is completely unrelated in any sort of necessary sense. For example, an intimate nude photo of somebody in a sexually compromising situation.
Puss.
But they're extremely attractive. So what do? They
Whack
turn around
off?
in their chair and they show their coworker. This is still quotes. They turn around in their chair and they show their coworker, and their coworker says, "Oh, hey, that's great. Send it to Bill from down the way." End interior quote, still in a quote.
Bill in finance would love her red puss.
And then Bill sends it to George, and George sends it to Tom, and sooner or later, this person's whole life has been seen by all these people.
And the president of the NSA or whatever, the main director, is whacking off to her red puss.
Is anybody surprised by this?
Duh.
Yeah.
No.
When I tweeted
We're
this
men.
story, I tweeted it as the duh of the week because, duh.
Duh. I'm pretty sure that the last I checked, we were pretty much men. Probably the majority of the employees in the NSA in these positions were men too. And I hate to sound like a
Oh, sure.
misogynistic,
No, it was definitely a
but
boys' club.
statistics say what they say. It's probably a boys' club, and he said it's George and Tom and Bill and Bob. And
Yeah, I
men
didn't
are
hear
men.
one girl's name in that list.
No,
Yeah.
certainly. We're not sending it to Sandy. We're not sending it to Sandy. She might go to HR. But Bob's just going to whack off to it because it's the red puss.
Could you say red puss maybe 4 more times,
At
please?
least I'm going to try. I'm certainly going to try.
Snowden told The Guardian that the analysts were comfortable sharing the information because they worked in small offices where everyone knew everyone else. Quote, it's never reported because the auditing of these systems is incredibly weak, he said. Proof of that, Snowden said, was in his own situation. Well, obviously the auditing wasn't that strong, or Snowden
or
never
not.
would have got to Russia,
Not at all. Maybe not.
or there was
existent.
no auditing whatsoever. Can you honestly be surprised that, like, I saw this news story and I was like, oh my God, they're sharing our sex with each other in the office? I can't believe that. What?
Oh.
Obvious, like, this is such a non-starter news story, but I was so like,
Anybody who's ever worked in a shop knows at least some titty pictures in the perspective.
right. I mean, there's always that one dude in the shop that'll be like, yo, look at this picture this girl sent me, and he'll use ruder language than that, but it's like, then they show you and you're like, dude, I really didn't want to see, like, that's not appropriate for you to do.
Look at this fucking hoe. She sent me her titty pictures and her red puss.
Exactly. And you're like, that's not appropriate, dude. Why did you feel like you needed to share that with me? We're not even friends. And then,
Oh, but you could appreciate it, right, brother? Right, my man.
but even past that, this is what our tax dollars are paying people to do in the name of security.
Ooh, that's so sexy sounding. Security. I feel safe. Makes me feel warm.
Do
and
you
cozy.
feel safe?
Maybe less free, but definitely more safe.
Maybe safe, but my butt hurts. I mean, I don't know how safe this is. This is a sort of rape. When you take sexual advantage of somebody, without their consent, isn't that rape?
I would imagine.
This is a sort of rape.
If somebody kicks your ass on whatever first-person shooter game you play, isn't that also rape? That's what they say in the chat room.
I don't think that's rape at all.
No, that's what they say.
No, I think that
I
cheapens.
was raped.
I think that cheapens a otherwise strong point. When somebody takes advantage of you sexually, there's an argument to be made that that's a kind of rape. Our
I don't know that
taxpayers.
there's an argument to be made that that's kind of a rape. I think that's the definition, isn't it?
Well, no, I think the definition, like the strictly held definition of rape, is forcible penetration against the other participant's will. I'm going to call that what is the absolute rape.
All right.
And this is kind of an offshoot of that.
Without Google Define, I take that as an opinion, but I'll take it as well.
Would you disagree that
No, I
forcible
didn't-
penetration against somebody's will is rape?
I didn't say that.
Could you argue in any fine point that it's not?
No.
So it is the broadest definition.
No, it's more specific definition. Your more broad
okay,
definition
you're right.
was actually also covered underneath this.
Can we agree that our tax dollars are being paid to rape the American people by somebody's definition?
By somebody's definition? Yes.
Yes.
We're on the same page.
All
All right. Following you
We've
along.
found common ground.
Somebody really feels like this is forcible rape.
This story goes on a little bit, but Snowden defended his colleagues, saying they were normal people, not mustaches. This is a quote, not
Really?
quote, mustache twirling villains is actually a quote.
Wow.
Yes. Those who objected
tracks.
Those who objected to the NSA's snooping would not complain because they saw what previous whistleblowers had to live with. Quote, pulled out of the shower at gunpoint, naked in front of their families. We all have mortgages, Snowden said. We all have families. The story concludes with a wrap-up of who Edward Snowden is. I'm pretty sure that we know who Edward Snowden is.
Probably at least the loyal listeners of the show have a clue or an idea.
Our policy for dealing with whistleblowers under the Obama administration is disgusting. By itself, this is reason enough to feel lied to. He said change, and we all thought he meant
Change.
for us.
Yeah, no.
No, that's not what he meant. Maybe it is. Maybe it is, and he just, got crushed by the boys' club. I think that that's actually a probability. I think that Barack Obama, Senator Barack Obama, President-elect Barack Obama, I think that that person actually had an idea that they were going to get in there and give change to the people. And then they got in there and they found that they couldn't because of people like Alan Greenspan.
I wonder if your point of view is noble. This is what a cynical piece of shit I am. I wonder if he wasn't as corrupt from junior senator on, from when he entered the game. Can you become president of this country without being part of the system, being part of the game from very early on?
The reading I've done suggests that it could go either way. It could be that he was a senator who saw a path to the presidency and was encouraged by his peers to do so,
The right people.
in a good way or in a bad way.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm arguing for in a good way and you're arguing for in a bad way. Like he was
Probably.
groomed for it. I think
As my position in this
Yeah.
exact instance, yes.
sure. And I won't argue that he was groomed for it. I mean, you're absolutely correct, but I do think that his intentions were better than his actions were.
I guess that's probably...
Nobody
safe
wakes
to
up
say-
and says, I'm going to be a bad person today.
Exactly the point. I think that's probably safe to say for all human beings, or at least human beings of our culture, where we work out, and probably to all human beings, is that we don't wake up and say, I'm going to be a bad human being today. We wake up and say, I'm going to be the best human being I'm going to be that's possible. But sometimes the powers that be just don't make things possible.
That is absolutely true.
Not unless you're just a cog in the wheel. You know what I mean? A cog in the machine.
Well, man, I think that at some point during all of our lives, we all become a cog in the machine. And currently, this cog in the machine would like to have some pee.
Oh, me too.
Folks, Perhaps next week we will revisit this and we'll get back into the sticky notes and we'll continue to clean up my desktop because we definitely didn't get through them all and we have news stories. But there's like
Or perhaps
World War III breaking out, so perhaps we'll be covering that instead.
or perhaps more content exclusive to AirWreckRadio.com and AirWreck Radio podcasts.
Oh, that's interesting. That's an idea too. In the meantime, folks, have some sassafras tea. We'll see you next week.
It's late in the afternoon, the sun rising high. There's nothing to do around here, and if there was, well, I wouldn't try. Taking my comforts, taking good care of me. Sitting down in my easy chair, taking a sip of my sassafras tea. Now wouldn't you know it, there goes the phone again. It's probably just another wrong number, but someone tried to sell me something I can't even see. Well, I got the solution. Insanity. Just sit down in my easy chair and take a big sip of my sassafras tea. It's getting near evening, sun going down. I guess I should shake a leg, climb in my car and roll downtown. Check out the city lights, all decked out in a tux and a tie. But I'm sitting in my easy chair, taking a sip of my sassafras tea. Jim, he got the willies and the worries on his mind and the weight of the world putting pressure on his spine. Well, I got the solution. I know how to set him free. Set him down in my easy chair and give him a sip of my sassafras tea.